Previously on this channel, I've attempted to get people who claim that the Boston bombing was somehow something that went live. I just asked them to do the basic thing I ask of myself and sometimes fail to do. Look it up. Would you mind telling me when this happened, where it happened, what organization did it, etc., etc., etc.? Because the claim was that a year before the Boston bombing happened, at the previous Boston Marathon, somebody did exactly the same thing as the Boston bombing. The fact is that there were multiple instances in the past through various organizations to do simulations similar to this. They failed to look them up, and honestly I didn't bother making the extra video. So I just made it. So I'm going to pick up where I left off with the last thing I said. I critiqued the first minute of a 1 hour long conspiracy theorist gish galloping video, going on the presumption that I shouldn't be able to find something easily debunked in the first few minutes. And the thing I found is the alluding to a after-action report in 2013 about the Boston bombing, mentioning a few things. Number one, the marathon route, a bunker, and Framingham MEMA, which is not part of FEMA, and MACC headquarters. And a rumor alluding to a 2012 bombing drill that ignored all previous drills and afterwards, which I didn't mention in the video. I just asked them, would you mind looking up every time this drill experiment had been done? So I just did a video detailing the last X number of times because they've been doing it from 2011 forward until 2018, when an action group with some interesting people in it decided to try to get rid of these drills because, well, you watch the video, I'll have a link below, I made it. The testimony of one person out of 23,000 runners saying, I heard or saw something, contradicts everybody audio and video recording at the time. And everybody who has a video saying otherwise has a video where they won't give you the original video. And I've caught a lot of them literally overdubbing totally different audio. Get your fake audio straightened out between your channels before you put these up. I asked for it and I got bullcrap. Natural News also made a claim about a bomb disposal drill. And then both of them actually use the expression exercise, not a drill. They are actually different things. But to synopsize it, a year before the Boston bombing, a year and a month, not during the marathon, they did a drill that was very, very similar. And after the previous year's Boston Marathon, they did one too. They also planned on doing one that was bizarre and, I think, bad idea long after the Boston Marathon had finished, but the bombing made it to where they had to cancel it because they didn't feel comfortable doing this, because this would cause trouble on a very large scale, because they would literally be using explosives. And I think the town was a little bit shell-shocked and didn't want to have this happen, so it got kiboshed, and that's a good thing. So the next part about this, the idea of a Boston bombing having gone live by claiming that there was a bombing drill immediately before it is a little stupid, but not quite, because if you have a bunch of police at a large-scale event that covers 20 miles of road, people running around, and is a big target, a big target for terrorist activity to try to get yourself on the news because you're a terrorist and you want to do this as a bizarre form of activism, yeah, you're going to have a bunch of police and everybody else, and city and state and highway patrol people hanging out trying to make sure it's safe and checking for anything that looks suspicious. So while you're doing it, you could deliberately go ahead and run a drill 10 miles away or whatever, and that might be useful. The trouble is, you have to show that a drill happened that day. Period. Full stop. And you might be able to. It would save a little bit of money because you'd have people on call doing overtime. Might just well get them to train something. So anyway, here we go. This main meme is Natural News' claim about a disposal drill based on an erroneous report about something found at a building nearby, and another incident that was claimed by one of the runners, a man named Alistair Stevenson, who said the following statements. At the starting line this morning, they had bomb-sniffing dogs and bomb squad out there. That happens actually during most public events that become a target for when they run these. So they tend to do that as part of just ordinary security. So the next part of it is his assertion that they kept announcing to runners not to be alarmed, that they were running a training exercise, not a drill. In fact, a lot of the statements that are done in Boston, when they announced these drills in the newspaper, yes, I just dug up every article I could. Every year had one. You just type in a specific expression if you want to find it. All of them called it not a drill, because a drill is a different thing. They normally run that away from the public because they don't want it to be misinterpreted. But everybody's heard about black helicopters in downtown areas being run because they decided, screw it, let's do a live fire exercise almost. I'm objecting to that too. But anyway, you look up Urban Shield Boston and you find references to it. Urban Shield Boston, and then type in the year. It was going from 2011 to 2018, and that's it. It was shut down because of protests and complaints. So let's go on with the next part of it, as people hopefully aren't screaming. I'm just not going to edit that out because I'm tired of doing 15 takes when people could just not yell at each other at ear-splitting decibel level. I'm not kidding, half a block away. Okay, let's just get on with it. Now here we go. So anyway, this one person said these things. Kept announcing to runners not to be alarmed. Through speakers or just person to person. Lots of people recorded that day. And again, you'll find recordings where people overdub, "This is not a drill, this is a drill, this is a drill. We're going live." But when you play it back, it doesn't match unless they copied each other. I'd like to have an original recording. I can't wait to see this, where someone actually does that. No, not a 1-hour Gish Gallop video that I debunked last time. If you make a bunch of mistakes in the first minute and a half, or just lie in the first minute and a half to try to exclude anybody rational, you deserve to have your video told, said, no, you debunked yourself. So anyway, what else happened? Area hospitals always get non-critical patients from marathons that last 20 miles or more. They can't have 100% surveillance coverage of 22,000 runners over a 20-mile or more distance. In April 2012, the race was in 88 degrees Fahrenheit weather. This made 27,000 runners, or some huge ass amount like that, almost as much as you have for a normal race, defer their entry fee until 2013 when the bombing happened, because they didn't want to die from heat stroke. Anyway, for the 2013 marathon, they over-prepared, and the temperature was around 54 degrees Fahrenheit. So they over-prepared. But they kept them at the starting line and the ending line and along the distance. Unless you've run a marathon, you don't know, you can really be screwed up by it. Anyway, the first thing they did that triggered all of the conspiracy theorists, besides the bombing happening, is they had 26 seconds of silence for Sandy Hook Elementary School victims. That infuriated conspiracy theorists. They made that part of their hate campaign. People protested having a moment of silence for children who were murdered. Let that sink in. So anyway, all the medical buildup was unneeded until 2:49 p.m. when actual real bombs went off near Boston Marathon's finish line at 755 Boydston Street, which was 21 miles from the 400 Worcester Road, Framingham MEMA headquarters. And no, they weren't doing a simulation at the time, and no, they didn't have 100% coverage of the area. People made that assertion. That's 8 miles from the starting line at number 1 Ash Street, Hopkinton, and 2 miles north of the Framingham Marathon route, because they were not near the marathon. And that was at number 1 Bishop Street. That's the closest cross point. Be prepared and learn from your mistakes should not be a smoking gun for false flag assertions. They were over-prepared for the day because the previous year it was way too hot. And they were over-prepared because, I'll point this out, the Boston bomb squad and the police are notorious for overreacting or underreacting, as you may have noticed. So they were trying to live that down. So someone's assertion is the following. The after-action report. Waptec gave exactly what was said in the video as being the same. And he's listed some assertions here. But is also claiming that Plasma Burns was one of many who proved 100% that Boston was a staged hoax. But there isn't any proof of it. You keep making vague assertions and nobody gives you the backup data like I do. I'm going to cut and paste the exact assertion this person's making and all of my links and all the information into both videos. This one and the previous one. The previous one details years and years of them escalating what kind of simulations and what kind of exercises they do to try to make sure they're ready for something so that they can try to make it to where there's the lowest possible death rate from something. If anything, the only thing you learn from this, from the drills or exercises or whatever, is that it does help them reduce the deaths. The number of people killed in the Boston bombing is actually a fairly low number. Lots of people were injured. It was an anti-personnel bomb set off, made out of a pressure cooker. It wasn't a giant event to cause you to lose your guns. It was a bombing. Why are you saying it's about guns? Oh, because of some stupid thing that happened as well. But anyway, let's get on with it. Then, of course, the person says, MEMA is literally Massachusetts state branch of FEMA. No, it's not. They're not associated at all. They can associate if they wish to, but they're not one from the other or one controlling the other. It was started originally as a civil defense thing. If anybody wants me to repeat that, well, it started in the 1960s before FEMA existed, so no. So you're just wrong. So anyway, what's the rest of it? A multi-agency coordination center was located at MEMA headquarters in Framingham. This may be the only thing the person actually typed out that's factual. But, well, you know, Satan can't tell the truth continually, so let's continue. Framingham was an area where runners passed through. No, it fucking wasn't. The Framingham location is a mile away. Framingham is an area they went through, but that's an extremely tenuous reference to it. So why wasn't the killing done a mile away? Why didn't they set off explosives in a place that would be less likely to arouse suspicion? Wait for a large number of people there instead of the ending or the beginning. Oh, because that's where the press was pointing the cameras. The press was watching the end of the race. The press was watching the beginning of the race. Why would you set off an explosive halfway through it where nobody's looking? This is done to get on the news. Next. They were monitoring the marathon in real time. Yeah, 3 or 4 cameras were able to monitor in real time. That doesn't make it 100% coverage, and it's not really all that useful. And what they mostly did, if you were actually paying attention, was just watching the news, reporting it as a sporting event. You're better off watching a sports channel than using security cameras. Sorry. They also monitored, quote-unquote, the radio in real time. Aren't you trying to create a police state, surveillance state meme here? Again, that isn't actually very valid. You're weaseling. I'm not weaseling. I've got the listing below. Why don't you look that up and see if I made a mistake? I probably made at least one mistake on the time and date stamp. At least have the decency to critique what I say and do. But hey, you agreed with one thing. Let's see what else we got. They were set up there the previous year when they ran a bomb drill at the finish line. Was it actually at the finish line on the same day as the marathon, or before or after, or both? I haven't included every link, by the way. How many times have they done a bomb drill at the finish line? But not during the marathon or during it? Your claim is this was done during the marathon. You're claiming it happened before or after the previous year. Which is it? Wouldn't it be logistically difficult or impossible to do a bomb drill at the finish line at the end or beginning of the race? If you don't think that running a bomb exercise at the finish line the previous year of the Boston bombing is noteworthy, then you're brain dead. I think it's very noteworthy. What I'd like to know is why didn't you state when? It was a month before the previous one. It wasn't during it. And it was a scenario that may or may not have been carried out in a room 10 miles away or 12 miles away or 20 miles away. In this case, 21 miles away. Why don't you acknowledge where the actual thing was done? And why don't you look up all the other ones to show that this is a chronically stupid, in my opinion, but continuing activity where they do these exercises every single year. This was not a special year. Neither was the previous year. 2011 is a special year because they started doing them. And 2018 is a special year because a bunch of internet protesters got them to stop by protesting it in the name of Israel as an apartheid state, of all things. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. Be prepared. Learn from your mistakes. And don't let that be a false flag assertion.